Hey, what's up, YouTube fans? This is Jeremy from Uppercut. I've been working on this song by the band The Apprehended. The name of the song is Still Flying. Been working on this song for my portfolio off and off in the last couple days. It's a very intricate song, kind of tough. I got it off the Cambridge Music Technology site. I'll leave a link down below. Give me a like and a sub while you're looking down there. And here's the original, which is these tracks are just static mix, which is a mix using nothing but volume and panning. No real plugins or anything special. This is just basically volume and getting everything where it's supposed to be. That's how I start every mix. So here it is. Pretty tight. Really good tracks, lots of solos, lots of screaming, tons of dynamics in this song. Here is my mix at the point I am right now. Let's do that comparison again. Here is the static mix. And here's where I am on my mix. Alright, let's dive in and I'll show you how I got to this point. Alright, here we are back in the box, as you can see. And just kind of poke around on this static mix. Here is the drum sound from the original with just volume and panning. I did add trigger to these on the kick and the snare because without it you wouldn't really be able to hear the kick and the snare. Here, I'll show you. Here's without. That's the real raw tracks. We got my kick trigger. And my snare trigger. So that's just two triggers on the drums right there. Which, they're really good recorded tracks. I mean, they were recorded very well. So let's go to my drum tracks. And on this version, I just have re-limit on the same thing that I have my mastering stuff set on. I have it on re-limit on the project file. That way it kind of simulates what mastering is going to do to it. Re-limit is a great clean limiter. Let's get back here, find these are the drums are like they are in the mix that as I have it right now. As you can see, these purple tracks right here are my drum tracks. I've got everything, same trigger that was on the other one, kick and snare. I've got every track going into virtual tape machine, 2-inch 16 track, FG9, 30 IPS on most tracks. On the bass tracks I have it on 15 and set the bias at low, but most of the other ones are right in the middle. From the virtual tape machine, everything goes into the virtual mix rack with the Brit 4KE analog summing action they got with the VCC. I guess that's what it would be. That's mine. I got some JST clip on the shells bus, which just gives it some sweet saturation and kind of limits it. I also have a limiter on the full bus to make sure my drum track never goes past. I like to push my drums right to the brink of clipping. and then everything else just kind of falls below it. But that's just how I do. So I have it set on a threshold of 1, constant gain, true peak on the drum bus. Let's hear the original again. Now let's go to mine. As you can see, I got quite a bit of FG stress on that snare. Lots of top end from my favorite EQ, the SSL EQ. I use that in the SSL Brit 4KE on every channel, literally everything. It's like my salsa. I also love the FG stress. I use it a lot. It's just, I don't know why, it's just the compressor I like the most from Slate, besides the LA2A, which isn't called an LA2A, it is called an FG2A on here. With those two compressors, maybe a FET every now and then, that's all I need. Alright, that's a quick breakdown of the drums. As you can hear on that snare, I have a plate reverb, which is the same plate I use on every mix. It is a FG 480 plate, got decay set at 194. Let's hear that without the reverb. So it's just adding some slap and some fuzz. And from there I have my shells going to my saturation bus, which I use these same 6 plugins as my effects rack on every mix I do. It's 6 plugins. I got 3 reverbs, 2 delays, and a saturation plugin. I like the saturation plugin because you can choose tape or tube. You can high pass, low pass, and this is a free plugin. Go check out bedroomproducersblog.com. Really cool place. Really cool plugins. I put some triggers on the toms. Let's just solo out these toms. Nothing too crazy. The original tom sound here, I'll show you. That's without the triggers. Just needed some love, so I added some triggers that I picked out, some samples, just to give it, and I gave it some room reverb, which is my Room Verb Suite Classic, medium room, 701 milliseconds. Let's hear that again. And on that, of course, I got stress. I pulled some 3K out, added some top end, and added some bottom end because it's a little too slappy. That's better. Alright, let's go back to the static mix with the drums and add in the bass. The bass as is, as you can see, no plugins, no nothing. Straight up. It was already a really good bass sound. I was pretty happy with that. I took that bass sound and turned it into this. That has, of course, virtual tape machine. I went in and boosted the lows just a tiny bit and Have it set on low, 16 track, 15 IPs. Going into virtual mix rack with my favorite two EQs, the SSL and the Slate Custom. This EQ is just awesome. The high pass and the low pass on it are so smooth, it's just like butter. And then here's the clincher. I just got these Joel Wanasek Bus Clue plugins, and they are phenomenal. Check them out at joeysturgis.com. I'll leave a link down below. This is not a paid program. I use all Joey's stuff. I have everything he does. Well, most of it. I could still use a few more of these bus glues, but yeah, I'm on a pretty tight budget right now. Here is the bass track. I'm going to toggle this off right here, and you'll hear what it does. The original bass track was good. It was just a little bit all over the place. This plugin, as you can see right now, it's set on bottom. So these two indicators are for the bottom. If you switch it to the top, that is your compression and output of the top signal. And has it where you can set your bass above or below the kick in the mix. On this mix, the kick was a little bit high and needed to punch through, so I put the bass underneath it. I like this plugin because it has 3 different distortions. Mix knob, as all the bus glue, all Joey Sturgis does. I leave it all the way up on this because I also use this as the limiter. As you can see, it just gives it some great body, some cool saturation, harmonic vibe down there in the low end. And let's hear the original. Here's what I ended up with. Alright, so that's the breakdown of the bass and the guitar. Bass and the drums, excuse me. It's early where I'm at. Let's go to the original mix and add in the amp sound. This is just the 2 amp signals that they sent. 1 hard pan left, 1 hard pan right, and put into a bus. Really good tracks, especially on the guitars. Let's go ahead and add in my guitars after I've mixed them. So all tracks, of course, going into virtual tape machine, into virtual mix rack with the usual suspects, SSL, custom series, Brit 4KE. I'm adding a lot of top into these because once you push it into the compressor, it kind of kills some of those tops, which is the idea. I have that going into Joel Wanasek's bus glue. I love this Chug Slayer. It's just a really slight dynamic EQ that takes the 200 out and kind of tames that pick attack. On guitar, it's simple, easy to use. It's a limiter. It gives it some vibe and some chunk. Just great. Those Joel Wanasek, it's one of the best metal producers in the world. His plugins are made for metal. Also on this track, they sent these. This is one part I have to bring up. If you just download these tracks from the Cambridge site like I did, and drag and drop them into Reaper, there's some mistakes. As you can see right here, see this pink track is the lead. Those arpeggios, and it just comes in late. I thought he might have intended to do that, so I downloaded the reference track from their website, which you should go check out right now and download all their stuff. They're fucking awesome. But that's when I realized that that was a mistake, and that all of these lead tracks were off by the same amount. Even these clean, trippy leads that are later on in the song. So after listening to the reference track, I just slid them over. And this is what I got. And with the intro I've added. Not really like a guitar solo. They're just kind of arpeggios, kind of Mozart-like in the background. It does that again for the chorus, and I moved these all in time best I could, just kind of using my ear. Normally on the Cambridge site you can just drag them and drop them into your file and start mixing, but that's not always going to be the case, as it is in with this. Also, another discrepancy I found is in their track they have a lot of post-production stuff, like booms and bass drops and impacts that were not included in the download. So if you're trying to match their reference track, you're going to fall short. But I'll show you what I did to combat that later. And on those arpeggios that are in the background of the solo, I got Toneforge Jeff Loomis. Different cabs on each side. Gives it pan 70 left and 70 right. And it just fits nicely. And let's hear the original with vocals and everything. Let's find the vocals where they start. Here we go. As you can see, this vocal performance is very dynamic, really quiet, really loud, really quiet. Really soft and beautiful, really high, really low. Dude is all over the place, which I love. A good vocalist knows how to work his range, and this guy does a really good job of that. It gets into a little bit of a nasally sound, which I'll show you what I did to combat that here. So that's how that was the original tracks. Let's go to where I am in my mix. Same spot. As you can see, I've got all these lead vocals that I deemed lead vocals. There was a lot of vocals tracks for this, so I went through and edited them and condensed it down to, it's still a lot of tracks. You should have seen it before I condensed it down. All of the green stuff down here at the bottom is all vocals. You can and there's my delays. When it's playing, you don't hear it in the mix as much. You got to be careful with that. I am. It's hard to know. As long as it sounds good in the mix, that's what's important. Anyway, this is the Bus Glue Joel Wanasak on vocals. Let's solo out these vocals.
I've got the world on my shoulders, every baby breath, the wind in our sails, but they're rolling steady. Rough hands moving, khaki
As you can see, I've got a send to my effects rack that I spoke of earlier, my 6 plugins. I've got the verb delay. It goes in a virtual tape machine. And then to combat some of that nasally, right here at the round in between 500 and 1K, I've got a dynamic compressor. And it's at its harmonic upper equivalency. It basically, on this guy's voice, it jumps in these waves. It's pretty much how his voice is. You can see it's like a pattern.
I've got the world on my shoulders. Every baby breath, the wind in our sails, but they're rolling us steady.
And that's just that one vocal bus. And of course I end it with the bus glue. It also acts as a limiter. And I pretty much have that on all of my vocal buses. A great song, and as you can see, he switches off a lot. I could have comped these all into maybe one track, but I'm a control freak and I like to put things all over the place. It just gives it movement and makes it sound fun. One of the clean breakdowns in this song, I'm gonna let it play through this part, and you'll hear these trippy guitar parts. These guitar parts were also off, and I had to kind of use my imagination, but I think I got it pretty close. And I did some pretty special stuff with this dirt vocal here and this dirt lead clean that weren't in the original mix that I just thought it needed. Let's hear this clean solo.
I haven't given up on those who believe.
So I took from this lead clean and sent it to a dirty amp because I thought it was too clean. So I just sent it to Tone Forge Menace on a send. Let's check that out. I just wanted to give it some dirt, and also with this dirt vocal, same thing. I wanted to give this vocal a broken megaphone type of thing, so I used the same amp. I used Tone Forge Menace through all the usual suspects. And then obviously I sent that to my throw. I also built and made this MIDI part because to me it just kind of dropped out right there. So that's the little extras that I added to this part. Let's go ahead and hear it all in the mix. One of my favorite parts in this song is when the vocalist just kind of goes off and has a little bit of a meltdown, like we all do. He just puts in a great emotion. So check this out. Yeah, that Joel Wanasek just gives that bass so much more low-end information and vibe and keeps it right where it needs to be. It's so awesome. That's pretty much the breakdown. There's a lot of synths in this song, which I added that one little piece, but here's the ones that were provided. Just your basic pads, and then there's some piano in the in the chorus. That piano matches the vocal melody. So at the end, it seemed like everything just kind of dropped off all too fast and left it kind of empty for me. I'm a theatrical. I mix. I see pictures when I mix. I know I need to lay off the cannabis, but I took this piano part and slowed it down for the end. I just wanted that broken piano sound. And then I also took this lead guitar part right here and took a clip from the beginning of it and just kind of twisted a little bit. Which soloed out, it doesn't sound all that special, but when you hear the ending all together, it sounds pretty cool. When I was speaking earlier about when you download these tracks, it's going to be missing some post-production samples that were in their reference track. So if you're trying to match them, you're going to fall a little bit short. So here are the samples that I've added. I took their synth part, reversed it, and made this riser out of it. But I put transgate on it. Let's hear it without transgate, 'cause then it's just a normal reversed orchestra hit. Which is all cool, but used a lot. So I love this transgate. You can just make different patterns that snips out. So then I added this bass drop because they had one. This isn't the same one they used, obviously, because they didn't include it. But if they did, I missed it. Not too big, not too crazy. And I also added an impact. Just to give it some ambience and some theatrical vibe. Then I added this Terra Nova one-shot vortex wave and faded it in, as you can see. Nothing huge, nothing crazy. I have thousands of samples, so it wasn't a problem to make my own. That's something you should probably get into as a mixer, is your own post-production stuff. Here it is in the mix. Almost forgot to show you my master bus. First insert, we have a corrective EQ, cut out some of this 4K nonsense, add some mids and stuff like that. Little 3K boost at 13, which this song really needed. It just needed it. So as you can see, it goes into FG Gray. Let's get to the meat. And I got that set on a ratio of 2, really fast attack, release, kind of slow attack, low threshold. It's just adding some glue. Then that goes into my virtual mix rack. On this, I try to watch, I put a trimmer before and a trimmer at the end, and I watch where it's coming in at, and I want it to go out at about the same way. That way all of these plugins aren't really adding volume. I mean, they will, but try to attenuate that as best I can. And from there, I have it going into this free plugin from Analog Obsession. It's just a Neve emulation. I mainly use it for this saturation right here. Cool thing is about this plugin is it auto attenuates everything you do. This plugin will not add volume. It just adds just an awesome vibe. I'm going to toggle it on and off right here with this button. When you don't see the check mark, it's turned off. That's a really subtle one, but it's there. This is the virtual tape machine that I have pretty much as my last insert. I have it on the FG9, the 2-inch track. Like if all of this stuff was going into an old tape machine, this is what that emulates. And then I have Re-Limit on here just to simulate mastering. I'm going to turn that off so you can hear the mix. That's a great example. This is with no limiting, nothing. It's where the mix doesn't fall apart without it. You don't want any plugin to be so important that without it your mix just drops. That's basically fake mixing in my opinion. You don't want it to be all plug-in. You want it to be your ears and your talent. So it's all in the mix. Mastering doesn't really do much. Well, on my mixes, they just make them louder and wider. Here's an example. This is that same song after I bounced it out and ran into Ozone. Of course, I've got a little EQ, dynamic EQ, exciter, which is set on tape for tape saturation on pretty much set. I'm a power of 3 man, so everything's on 3. little bit of stereo widening. And as you can see, I'm not even limiting by a dB. I'm barely taking anything off of it. I'm going to toggle this on and off and show you what mastering really does. As you can see, mastering is not the magic that it sounds like. If your mix is bad, mastering will make it worse. If your mix is good, mastering will make it better. It's just, it brings out the best in your mix or the worst in your mix. But that's this mix breakdown. I'm going to finish mastering this, and of course I bounce it out and do a car test and then a TV test and earbuds test and all that stuff, and that takes a while. I'm going to upload this mix breakdown to my YouTube, and you can check it out there. After I get it mastered, I'll add the link to it, and you guys can check it out on my portfolio. Download the song from the band. I'll leave a link down below to their website. Get with Uppercut and get knocked out. If you have any tracks that you need mixed or mastered, send them to me. I'll make them thump.